The sun was barely rising over the neat suburban homes when Alicia Monroe pulled into her driveway, her silver Lexus humming softly to a stop. The neighborhood looked like something out of a magazine, every lawn trimmed to perfection, driveways freshly power-washed, flower beds bursting with color. It was the kind of place people dreamed of living in. But Alicia knew better. Behind those white fences and polished smiles hid something far less perfect. She was bone-tired after a 16-hour shift at the hospital. The smell of antiseptic still clung to her scrubs, and her hands ached from holding too many lives together through the night. She just wanted a hot shower, a cup of coffee, and silence. But as soon as she stepped out of her car, that silence was broken. "Excuse me," the voice came sharp, cutting through the morning air like a blade. Alicia turned and saw her, Karen Whitmore, the neighborhood's self-appointed queen, wrapped in a pastel pink tracksuit and armed with a phone in one hand and judgment in the other. Her expression was one of pure suspicion, as though she had just caught a criminal in the act. "That car doesn't belong to you," Karen said, pointing at the Lexus with her French manicured finger. Alicia blinked, caught off guard. "I'm sorry, what?" Karen strutted closer, chin raised. "I said that vehicle doesn't belong to you. I know who owns that Lexus, and it's not you. The previous owners moved out last month." Alicia's jaw tightened. She had dealt with arrogant patients, irate families, and hospital politics. But nothing quite tested her patience like this woman. "I bought this car 2 weeks ago," she said evenly. "It's mine." Karen folded her arms. "Oh really? Because I haven't seen any proof of that. You people think you can just show up here and take whatever you want." Those two words, "you people," hit harder than they should have. Alicia took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. "I live here," she said quietly. "You know that. 423 Maple Drive, right there. That's my home. And this," she said, gesturing toward the Lexus, "is my car. Paid for in full. You can even check the plates if you like." But Karen wasn't listening. Her fingers were already tapping her phone screen, eyes flashing with indignation. "I'm calling the police," she snapped. "Let them sort this out. I'm tired of people thinking they can just move in and make up stories." Alicia couldn't believe it. She had just spent a night saving lives, and now she was being accused of grand theft auto, in her own driveway. Minutes later, the sound of sirens echoed down the quiet street. 2 police cars pulled up, lights flashing red and blue across the spotless houses. Karen practically sprinted to them, waving her arms. "Officers," she cried, "she's trying to steal that car. I caught her just in time." Alicia stood her ground, arms folded. She wasn't going to give this woman the satisfaction of seeing her rattled. One of the officers approached her carefully. "Ma'am, we got a report about a possible stolen vehicle. Can we see your license and registration?" "Of course," Alicia said calmly, reaching into her purse. She handed them over, her voice steady even though her stomach twisted with anger. Karen stood off to the side, smirking. "Told you," she said under her breath. "You people always think you're smarter than the law." The officer took his time, flipping through the papers. He checked the license plate, then looked at Alicia's ID. His expression shifted. "Everything checks out, ma'am," he said finally. "The vehicle's registered in your name." Karen's smirk faded instantly. "That can't be right," she snapped. "I know that car." The officer interrupted her. "Ma'am, unless you have proof of a crime, you need to calm down. She's not doing anything wrong." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "I was just being cautious," she stammered. "You can't blame me for looking out for the neighborhood." Alicia let out a low breath, her anger cooling into something sharper. "No," she said softly, "you weren't looking out for the neighborhood. You were looking out for yourself. You saw a black woman standing next to a nice car and decided that didn't make sense to you." Karen's face went red. "That's not what this is about, isn't it?" Alicia stepped closer, her voice low but firm. "Because this isn't the first time you've done this. You've followed me home. You've taken pictures of my guests. You've sent fake WA warnings to my mailbox. I have every one of them saved." She turned to the officer. "I'd like to file a harassment report." Karen froze. "What? You can't do that." "I can," Alicia said, "and I will." The officer nodded. "If you've got documentation, ma'am, we can take your statement right now." Karen looked around, realizing for the first time that half the street was watching. Curtains twitched, phones peeked through windows. The perfect queen, caught in her own trap. Alicia took out her phone, opened the camera, and pressed record. "This is Karen Whitmore," she said clearly. "She called the police on me for standing near my own car. She said it didn't belong to me. Even after I showed proof of ownership, she refused to apologize. This is what harassment looks like in my neighborhood." Karen's voice trembled. "You can't record me." "Oh, I can," Alicia said, her voice like ice. "Because if you're bold enough to call the police on me, you should be bold enough to be seen doing it." She ended the recording and walked back toward her porch, her steps slow and steady. The officers handed back her papers with an apologetic look. "We're sorry, ma'am," one of them said. "You didn't deserve this." "I know," she said simply. That video spread across the internet like wildfire. Within a day, the clip had thousands of views, then hundreds of thousands. People from all over the country commented, outraged at what they saw. Former neighbors came forward, sharing their own stories of Karen's harassment and bias. The HOA held an emergency meeting. The board members, once her allies, suddenly wanted nothing to do with her. By the end of the week, Karen was stripped of her position as HOA president. Her reputation, once spotless, was now a stain that wouldn't wash out. But Alicia didn't celebrate. She didn't need to. Her victory wasn't about revenge, it was about peace. She used the momentum of that moment to do something the neighborhood had never seen before. She organized a community barbecue, inviting every family on the street. No HOA restrictions, no committees, no rules. Just people, real neighbors talking, laughing, and realizing how much they had let fear and prejudice divide them. For the first time in years, children played freely on the lawns, people shared food and stories, and the neighborhood felt human again. As for Karen, she moved out quietly a month later. No farewell party, no friendly waves, just silence as her moving truck pulled away. And every morning after that, Alicia would step outside, coffee in hand, and smile at her silver Lexus parked proudly in the driveway. It wasn't just a car anymore, it was a symbol. Proof that no one could take away what she had earned, and no one could make her doubt her place again. She had faced humiliation, racism, and arrogance, and turned it all into strength. Because sometimes, doing the unthinkable doesn't mean fighting back with anger. It means standing tall, telling the truth, and letting the world watch as the truth sets you free.